Hello, welcome to Topper Machine. I'm Josh Topper. So what I have in front of me is the track frame assembly for a Leeboy Paver. Now this is for a rubber track machine. This is a 2012 model year. This customer, I've just been doing stuff for them for the last few years, and they had this repaired one other time where it bent. As you can see, this plate is significantly bent and twisted and just bad. And I got the other one right there. We're going to do both of them. They want me to make this plate from 1 inch to 1.25 inches, so we'll make a new plate. And then they took it to a shop somewhere else before I started doing stuff for them, and they added these gussets. Well, if you look at it, yeah, they did a beautiful job welding it there, but these welds are not doing anything. And it's the same on both of them. So this isn't doing any good. Now, this is a design of Leeboy's that's not very good. They have an older machine that's steel track, and that actually has an outboard bearing that sits over here to provide extra support. So a much better design. So we're going to just try to redesign this and make it a lot stronger for them, and probably add some gussets coming out further, because we already looked at the paver and see that there is clearance here to add gussets out further and make sure they're properly welded. So this is kind of an emergency job, and I got to be very quick about it. This customer, we just got rid of all of our snow here all of a sudden, finally, and they just were able to get this into the shop and tear it down. They've been trying to get it in there for a while and just couldn't get it moved. So they got it inside, got it tore down, but they need to be getting to work in the next day or two. So I need to work really fast and get these done. So I'm going to film this with as best I can, with as minimal effort on the filming. I hope it all works out, and I hope you get a good view of it and everything. So let's get to work. All right, she's all ground clean. Next step here is to take the piece I cut off, and I'm going to use this as my pattern, and I'll run my small stylus on the outside. That'll give me my outside shape, and then I'm going to use a bigger stylus to get a little offset so I can chuck it up in the lathe and bore this to fit the torque hub so it fits perfectly. And we're going to do that over here on the Victor duplicator. So I got her mounted up here. I got my bigger stylus in. I'm going to start with the center hole. I'm not going to do this cutout with the torch. I want to leave that there for machining so I don't have an uninterrupted cut. And then we'll go ahead and cut the outside of it. So let's get started. Here's the second one, and if you noticed, there's the notch is in two different places. Now I did a little measuring, and they are identical with the exception of the notch, which I'm not cutting in with the torch. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut the second one out. That way, once they're cool, I can chuck them both up, do all the work, and then get the first one all done, then I can cut this one off and get the second one done. I'm leaving this one just as a sample for the measurements, because this is the surface I need to keep. So I measured that, and then I want to measure my distance and everything, get it just right. So that's why I'm leaving this one, but I'll go ahead and cut that second one out. Now while I'm cutting out the second one here, a lot of you in my previous videos with this copy torch have suggested drilling a starter hole to start the cut, and yes, that definitely would help, but I'm just not doing it because it's really not that hard to, just kind of circle the torch, warm the material off of where you're cut, start it, and then move it in, and then engage the drive. Works pretty well. And now I'm getting to the little cutout here. I just need to hand feed it over and finish cutting out the circle. Now the nice thing about this, cutting out this circle versus chucking it up in the lathe and boring it out, is now I have this nice circle 1¼ inch thick that I can use for other stuff. So eventually I might find a use for that, and I didn't waste the material. And so if you're wondering now what I'm doing here, I'm just switching out my stylus. I use this bigger one to offset my cut on the inside of the hole, so I have material for cleanup on the bore, and then I'm using this one to give me pretty much a finished cut on the outside. So I'm just switching them out. But this machine is very simple to use, and extremely reliable because there's really no moving parts to it. I mean, very little. So no computer, my favorite kind. So now I'm at the end of my plate where I had torched it off of the track frame, and I'm just going to hand cut it, give myself an extra ½ inch or so that I can trim off when we get to the point of putting it on, measuring and get it set. So this leaves me some to clean up. There it is. It looks like that's about ready to drop out of there. Looks like this one cut a little better. Nice. All right, so I'm up here at the 4-jaw chuck, and I got it kind of lined up where I need to be, but I'm gonna have a problem when I start boring. I'm gonna actually hit my jaws when I come through. So I'm trying something out. I've got these little magnets here and set them on the jaw, and then I will use that to help space it off of the off of the chuck. And it looks like it's going to work well for me because it'll actually help hold the plate up there while I indicate it all in. All right, we're indicated in as close as I can get. We're pretty good. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to bore this out. Going to take it slow. First few passes are going to be pretty rough just because of the torch cut, but I think she'll cut just fine. So we're going for an 8-inch bore, and as always, use the caliper to get close. We have 375 thousandths to go. So I'm going to take another 350, and then we'll measure with the bore gauge. Perfect, just a couple of thousandths over, just as I had hoped. Now that planetary drive will fit in there nicely. Next we'll pull this out, take it over, and we'll transfer punch the holes onto it instead of setting it up with the readout. The transfer punch is good enough for this kind of stuff. want to just make sure it fits. There, that's nice. And make sure we don't have any bolt problems. Obviously, he's going to need some longer bolts because we went to a thicker plate, but they're all starting. It's very good. So that's better than what we had before. The original plate was actually looser on the planetary than this is, so this is a better fit. Now, when I laid this out, you saw me scribe that line. That's actually for the drive motor where that mounts, and there's a bump out on this one over here for part of the motor for clearance, and on the other one, I think it's about here. So I'm gonna go ahead and hand torch that in because it's non-load bearing, it's just there for clearance for the motor. And just like that, that's all it is for clearance. So when I cut these out, I made them a little bit longer than what I had. So now I'm gonna just have to figure out my overall length of what it needs to be here, distance here to here. That's why I didn't take the other one apart yet. And then I'll cut that off in the bandsaw, trim it to length, and then I'll chamfer here, and on the other side, we'll clamp it up with squares and weld her on. So I had planned on using my Fireball tools, the 12-inch Mega Square. It's not big enough. You hear that, Jason? It's not big enough. Need bigger. Much, much bigger. So I'm gonna have to come up with a different solution on how to get this up there. It may just be a kind of tack it and then adjust as I go until I get it just where I need it. So we'll see what happens. Well, I got it tacked up enough to where it looks like it'll hold. It's about as straight as it's gonna get. Significantly better than what was there. I had to maintain this surface distance from here of 1 inch, and that's what I was shooting for, and then keep it perpendicular to the pad here, and just everything's got to be just right to make this all come together and work, and I think we've got her. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my 1/16 inch ER70S6 wire and burn this in around 250 amps, and then we'll add the gussets. Alright, so I put everything together to do test fitting and see where my gussets are going to go. And I've already got a plan in place. They're just going to go like that. That'll give clearance and should give some strength to the whole thing. And then another one down here. Kind of the same thing. So I'll go ahead and disassemble this and weld those in. Well, we're going to call this one good. Everything's still square where it's supposed to be. Multiple weld passes, bigger gussets. I think this will cure their problems. The only thing that I can say, and I need to make a correction from the beginning of the video, this was not a bow mag, this is a Leeboy Paver. They need some kind of outboard support here. And without redesigning the planetary, there's just no way to do that. So as it is, this will function. This will be stronger. Should work out much better for them. And I'm going to go ahead and get the second one done and get it back to my customer so they can get back to work paving. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time, get out in your shop and get it done right the first time.